reason I'm here today in my role with Social Community Justice Society is to really talk about the role of the community and how we can respond more restoratively in our reactions to these incidents and others. So when crime occurs, we gravitate towards this get tough mentality. As stated by Paul Nicolle in an article called Restorative Justice, the Role of the Community, he says, when we feel the pain and fear caused by crime, we demand greater punishment, as if this will bring relief. As a country, we seem to be turning more and more to harsher punishment, as if we know of no other way. In spite of the lack of any credible empirical evidence that punishment of any kind or amount reduces the crime, we continue to get tough on crime. This get tough mentality on crime was certainly felt in our community when 6 boys were charged with the sharing of intimate images. I'd like to read a few comments from Facebook in reaction to the news that the boys would receive a conditional discharge. It's important to note that Social Community Justice Society does not receive referrals for individuals who have been charged with the sharing of intimate images because there is a moratorium in place for domestic violence and sexual offenses. However, we are able to assist the community with a restorative approach to these types of offenses, and we did just that for the case of the 6 boys who were charged with the sharing of intimate images. So let's talk about restorative justice. Why restorative justice? Well, because justice approached restoratively is about just relationships, interpersonal, social, institutional, and systemic. Justice then is focused on addressing harms and needs in order to build understanding and trust to move forward in a good way. When we think about a restorative approach, I often hear people say, it's soft on crime. Restorative justice is far from soft on crime. When we respond restoratively, we move away from blame and focus on addressing harm and ensuring this does not happen again. We focus on meaningful accountability. We consider context and causes of the harm. Restorative justice reveals where individual harm is connected to broader or systemic issues. We focus not only on the offender and victim, but include others involved or affected or who can support the way forward. Restorative justice is aimed at making and supporting plans for the future that support safe and healthy relationships and communities. Not only does our organization support a restorative approach, but it also aligns with the purpose and intent of the Youth Criminal Justice Act, or YCJA. The YCJA supports a response to youth crime which is community-based and emphasizes meaningful consequences. Meaningful consequences are things done to help youth understand the impact of their actions and fix the harm done to others. In addition, the YCJA emphasizes rehabilitation and reintegration of youth, addressing the problems that led the youth to commit the crime so that he or she does not commit further offenses, and helping the youth fit back into their community. Provisions in the YCJA are clear that all available sanctions other than custody must be considered, and that the normal response to youth crime should be to look at extrajudicial measures like a referral to a community-based agency first. Youth sentences should be the least restrictive, the most likely to rehabilitate and reintegrate, and promote a sense of responsibility and acknowledgement of harm done to victims and the community. Now I'd like to share the thoughts of individuals who have participated in a restorative approach to this type of offense. The participants felt the restorative process was educational and helpful, which I heard both of you say was very important, the education piece. The process allowed the participants to feel the seriousness of their actions and the effects on everyone involved, with particular attention to how the victims were affected. The restorative process helped the participants move forward with their lives, and it brought community together to educate. Cyberscan, RCMP, many players brought to the table to help educate and move forward in the right way. The judge also took notice of the impact of this crime on the victims. What if our community took a more restorative approach in their reaction? What would that look like? The community is certainly impacted by these incidents. The community also has a responsibility in playing a role in repairing the harm that has been done. A restorative approach recognizes that a community has both needs and obligations when a crime occurs. A community needs a renewed sense of safety and assurance that something is being done to address that loss of safety. As Paul Nicolle's article suggests, part of the solution is the process itself. Local communities need to be empowered to respond to their own conflicts in order to meet their needs, repair the psychological injury and anger of crime, and to help nurture the sense of community. We can see our community here doing just that. Our community agency was engaged to help foster accountability and meaningful consequence. We heard at the last panel that various organizations are going into the schools and teaching young people about consent, and I think we've heard that here as well tonight. And here we are tonight, taking responsibility as a larger community by engaging in public education and dialogue. So ultimately, a restorative approach reminds us all that we must work to understand the human dimensions involved in conflict. The community must reflect on the reality that most harms committed are done by and to persons known to us, who are members of our community. We must also remember a sometimes uncomfortable truth, that we as a community share responsibility for creating the social arrangements that lead to crime, and therefore we also have an obligation to help make things right. So how can our community meet our need for peace? I, as an individual, cannot answer that question, but would instead pose it to you, our community. Have we responded restoratively? Can we do better next time? Or rather, can we prevent it next time? I encourage everyone to continue this dialogue to help us answer these questions and become a restorative community.